Whew.
Does Buddy Hield drink for free for the rest of his life in the Bay Area?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give him that.
All right.
Why?
Does he drink for free more? Like, let's say Buddy Hield's coming into a bar,
Ooh.
and then Sleepy Floyd comes in right after him.
Uh-huh.
Who's more inclined to get a free drink?
Well, probably Buddy. I would say Buddy, because I don't think as many people know who Sleepy Floyd is, to be fair, Derek. Sleepy Floyd's very popular among the Warriors fan base, but if you're talking right now in the Bay Area, when the Warriors are the Bay Area's team, yeah, it's probably Buddy Hield.
Yeah, and we got pop culture catch up at the bottom here. That's not exactly what we're talking about.
Oh,
hello. Okay, it's just like which performance will stand out more when we think of the Warriors' history? Like Sleepy Floyd is Superman is synonymous with the call that my dad had years ago in 1987.
Right.
But if you look back at what actually happened, Sleepy Floyd had an amazing quarter, an amazing performance against the LA Lakers, but the Warriors lost that series in 5.
Yeah.
So when we think about the history of Golden State Warriors playoff performances, is Buddy Hield's better because it was in a game 7 and made them advance to the next round?
Depends on the outcome.
Yeah.
Depends on the outcome, man. Like, if the Warriors actually get to the NBA Finals, we'll certainly look back at this as, like, the Buddy Hield game. It's similar to the way in the 2022 Finals when we look at Kevon Looney's game against the Grizzlies where he had, like, 21 rebounds or whatever it was as the Kevon Looney game. Like, you memorize them depending on the result. You don't really remember these games depending if they actually lose in the next round. This will be – because there's always the whatever it's called, the recency bias, prisoner of the moment that we're going to have with Buddy Hield. But I'd say that would be it. But also that's just coming from a guy who didn't see the Sleepy Floyd performance live in person. So that's just me.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I wonder if more unsung heroes will be revered when we think of this time with the Warriors, like, the guys that actually won a championship, Mo Spates, Mo Buckets, as we all love to call him, Leandro Barbosa, Sean Livingston, Andrew Bogut, David Lee. I mean, like, honestly, like, do we think fondly of DeMarcus Cousins' time with the Warriors? Like, it was a lot of hype, but at the end, what didn't result in a championship? There was moments where, like, DeMarcus Cousins was huge. That game 2 in the NBA Finals when Kevin Durant was hurt, he had to come off the bench and coming off the quad injury, but we don't really think of that very fondly because it ended a championship. I think, like, to me, the biggest thing as far as a non-championship playoff victory was when they went into Houston and beat them 4-2 without KD. Where Steph and Clay went crazy and Steph didn't have any points in the first half and then went crazy with 33 points in the second half. It all depends on how the season finishes out.
Yes.
Is how we'll remember this Buddy Hield game. But nevertheless, a Game 7 win is a Game 7 win.
Yes, and he did it when everyone hated him.
Like, that is true.
Everyone wanted Buddy Hield traded. Like, I'm so glad. This is just me personally. Like, I muted those people who would just nonstop and negative talk about the Warriors that would pop up on the For You feed. Like, the Steve Kerr needs to get fired. What's he doing with Buddy? Buddy Hield is just he's a placeholder. He's not going to last with this team. Mike Dunleavy Jr. sucks. What's he doing making a sign and trade for Buddy Hield? Like, all that sort of stuff. I'm glad I muted that out because there was a reason they believed in this guy and it came through when it mattered most. And let's not forget, I know he didn't have a 30-point performance, but Buddy Hield was a huge part of that game 4 too, making a clutch 3 in the fourth quarter with like just over 3 minutes left to take the lead late in the game. The last one at Chase Center before they went to Houston. So like he not only did he, come up clutch in game 7, which he did, that's the one we'll remember, but he's been okay through this series. I'm not going to say he's been amazing, but he's been good enough, I think, to actually earn himself some minutes, whereas in the regular season, yeah, all right, some people had a point when they said he's unplayable at that time.
No, I mean, yeah, I think he's definitely earned the right to be called Buddy Hield. When he's a little off, as I said on this podcast and on the Dirty Work Show, I think we should refer to him as Bud Hield. or even Chavano, his real name.
Yeah.
No, he earned that title of Buddy. And yeah, down with other great buddies in history. Buddy Guy, blues player.
Yeah.
Buddy Holly, famous musician, died in a plane crash.
Yeah.
Buddy the Elf from
Buddy Love
from Nutty Professor. That's about it for me.
How about Lars from Heavyweights saying "Buddy"?
Yes, absolutely. We definitely play that today.
That's up there in the Buddy.
I need to watch. Is Heavyweights on I guess only Disney Plus, right?
Yes.
Damn it. That damn Disney Plus. Anyway, just your opinion, man. Stephen Langford, Derek Papa. We are coming to you the day after the Warriors win Game 7 against the Houston Rockets, and I have my doubts. But I don't think I should have to do the hot sauce challenge. We'll get to that a little later. We'll have a debate as Ernie's the only one in the chat right now, Rocka New Era, and we'll ask his opinion about whether or not me and Steven both lost in our first round predictions, or one of us should have to do the challenge today. But we'll get to that a little later.
Well, I said the Warriors were going to win, and you said the Rockets were going to lose. I think there's going to be a clear answer here.
Well, that'd be the same thing, Steven. You just said the Warriors were going to win and the Rockets were going to lose.
Yeah, but you said the Rockets would win.
But not when I predicted the series. You're missing the point.
Yeah, but you said
what I wrote on this goddamn card. I kept all track of all of our picks.
Yeah, well, just look at the last podcast and you saying, I think the Rockets are going to win, though. You took back.
I never said that. I said I hold on.
You said the Rockets were going to win.
I said I didn't feel really confident. Never did I say that the Rockets were going to win. I said I didn't feel confident.
I'm going to go back and you could go ramble for a few minutes before I'm going to go find this, and I'm going to have proof.
What, you have dueling podcasts go on the same time? The one that's going on live right now, the one we just recorded on Saturday.
Yeah,
that no one remembered to tune in for. I'm looking at you, Rocka New Era. Yeah,
like adjust your opinion, man. Inception.
That's kind of crazy.
Just your inception, man.
Rocka New Era says Derek has been so down on the Warriors. I think Steven might be right. You know what, Rocka New Era? You would say that. Somehow this chat's against me now, and I don't like it. Anyway.
Well, you try to do this realistic approach where you're like, I don't know. Everyone wants to be cautiously optimistic about their own team instead of flat out saying that they're going to win. And I get it.
It's good to have appropriate fear, in the words of Greg Popovich.
Sure, but this appropriate fear, I think earned you a hot sauce punishment.
We'll get to that a little later. We have time to discuss that. As far as last night, Warriors win Game 7, 103-89. And yes, I was not confident. But to give you the whole landscape of this weekend for me, or whatever, I don't know if the landscape's accurate, just how I was feeling, what the emotions of Derek Papa. On Friday night, I was pissed. I thought I was very confident going into that game. I thought that, I wasn't happy with the way they handled Game 5, but I'm like, all right, well, let's close it out. Steve Kerr knows his team better than me, and the Warriors know themselves better than I do. So if they need to rest, they need to rest. But I was expecting them to close that series out, and we talked about it on Saturday, Steve, and I was very disappointed. And I wasn't confident going into Game 7 because Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler had to play 42 minutes, and then to go back on a plane, and then to have the same intensity all over again, I doubted it. But then as time went on, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I mean, the Warriors are the more experienced team. I'm not expecting Steph Curry to score 50-plus to win this game like they had to a few years ago against Sacramento. But I thought maybe they would show that they are the more experienced team and that they would just make a few plays in the end to get this thing done. So the game yesterday, going into it, goddamn. I think the Houston fans are trying to poison the Warriors every time they had a game there. Game Lord. 2, Brandon Pajemski got sick from a seafood dinner. Jonathan Kuminga had a migraine. That's his own deal. And then last night, GP2 was sick as a dog and could not play in the game. Now, I don't know what his role would have been had he been healthy. I don't think they would have started him again. But the way that Steve Kerr was talking on Friday night after they lost, he made it sound like everything was on the table. So when people asked him about Jonathan Kuminga, he was like, yeah, like I said, everything's on the table. And in the end, they went with the same lineup. And at first I was like, just doing the same old thing. Okay. And then you and I were talking about it on Saturday morning. And the truth is, the Rockets are playing this zone defense, But as long as they just hit their shots, then they'll win. And that's what they did. They shot well. Thank God for Buddy Hield. They shot well, and they played great defense. Draymond Green had an amazing performance,
Yeah.
masterclass of defense. I mean, as a team, it wasn't so much what they did on the boards offensively. Like this whole series, the Rockets have dominated them have dominated them in the categories of rebounding and points of the paint, and that's just something that the Warriors have overcome in the past with their 3-point shooting. Last night, it was their ability to have defensive rebounds and to shoot and defend well, and the Rockets just weren't up for the moment. Fred VanVleet didn't shoot as well as he did in games 3, 4, and 5, and 6. Alfred Şengün was, still had productivity, but it wasn't the same output he had in the previous games. Draymond Green, like I said, had a great performance. Yeah, the bottom line is the Warriors made their shots, and they were the team that they were supposed to be in Game 5 and Game 6. So in the end, it wasn't that complicated. It was just the Warriors showed finally they were the better team.
And I think what set the tone for me was Fred VanVleet just totally tricking shots, just smoking these open 3-pointers that he was normally hitting at the start of the series. And I'm kind of going to focus on the Rockets for a little bit. It felt like they didn't manage to completely take him out of the equation, but they managed to not let Steven Adams be the most impactful player on the floor. The Amen Thompson injury was huge. Obviously, there was that moment where Steph had that open 3-pointer, and you're like, what the hell happened with Amen there? Because it went straight to commercial break. Then they came out of the commercial break explaining that, he's been ailing with that calf injury. So I think that as far as the Warriors, though, like we've seen them play such good basketball like over this stretch since Butler's arrived. And it did look like the Rockets had their number, but they just did not get any shooting from the others. They did not get any scoring from Brandon Podziemski or Buddy Hield. Obviously with what happened in Game 5, but I did not, and then in Game 6 as well. You did not get any production from those guys. I didn't expect Buddy to go for 30 points. And if he didn't, they probably wouldn't have blown them out the way that they did. But they were getting threes from everybody, contributions from everyone. Really, the only player that didn't play well to me was Jonathan Kuminga, who we can, get to maybe never in this episode, just because who cares? It's kind of over with now. Maybe they'll play him in the next series. Maybe they won't. Depends if they find a good matchup for him. But
I got something to say about him, but continue. But
ultimately, they just played good team basketball. And here's the difference for me, Derek, and I'm more going to, this is kind of a preview more of the Timberwolves series and not going back to Game 7, but finally in the second half, you saw Steph get a little bit of open space, just a little bit, like finally, like defense leading to offense and then Steph hitting threes in transition. Those are just momentum killers for the other teams and momentum shifters for the Warriors, where they're just gaining it whenever Curry does something like that. So it was just a whole mix of things. I do think it really started with the defense, though, and the tone that they set there, because in the first half, like I'm sitting there with Jessie, her mom, and her brother, and I'm like, the Warriors are playing kind of good basketball right now. Like I'm kind of as if I'm like constipated. But
it sounded like that.
You don't want to say anything like to jinx it. There's a little bit of superstition involved. But I think the defense kind of set the tone, and then the Warriors close it out. And yeah, again, not to mention, we texted about this when we were talking in the second half a little bit, but it's like the Game 7 Buddy, and then Kevon Looney again showing up in the big moments. He had that sequence where he had that block shot on defense, and I think the Rockets ended up getting the ball back, but then Looney grabbed the long rebound in the corner before it was able to go out of bounds, and it's like, oh, Looney's brought the energy today. So shout out to him too. It was a mix, man. It was a mix of the others: Jimmy, Steph, Draymond, Kevon, Buddy, Podziemski with some production at some points. Though Podziemski actually started to frustrate me in Game 7 at times. It's like a wide open layup or a wide open 3-pointer. But outside of that, they got by them, man. they got by them, and that's why I can't wait for this series. I'm kind of going back on what I said in the previous podcast where I did not like if the Warriors move on. I don't like the fact that the Timberwolves are getting a bunch of rest, but after looking into it today, I do feel a little bit better. But anyway, keeping up with Game 7. Loved it. Unreal.
Well, yeah, I mean, they won the series, and I don't like that it went this long. I wish that they closed it out in 5 or 6, but that's just how it went down. And for how much shit we've talked about the Houston Rockets, I give them a ton of credit. They're a young, scrappy defensive team that need a shooter. They need a scorer. And, Jalen Green pops at times, and so does Ahmed Thompson. I don't know if they're guys, though, like significant guys. They're obviously guys you could trade to get Kevin Durant. But if I was Kevin Durant, I wouldn't want to play for the Rockets. I would want to play for the next team the Warriors are facing in the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's a conversation for the offseason. But yeah, I mean, I was texting you during the game being like, this needs to be a big loon dog game. And I was kind of joking, but honestly, like he needs, if he got 20 rebounds, that'd be awesome. But I wasn't really anticipating that. I wanted him to score a little bit more, but he only played 11 minutes and had 3 points. And that's all that you got from the bench. So the most telling thing to me and the most impressive thing was the minutes that all 5 starters played. You had Draymond Green play 40 minutes. Jimmy Butler play 45. Stephen Curry playing 46. Buddy Hield playing 37. And Brandon Pajemski playing 40. And they all basically, all of them scored 100 points with only Kevon Looney being the guy with 3 points off the bench. So, it was funny to me how Kerr was like, everything's on the table. What really was on the table was, I need all of the guys that I truly trust to play the whole fucking game.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And I was surprised with how lifeless, I shouldn't say lifeless, because they were competitive for a good deal of time on Friday night in Game 6, but just less energy they had compared to what they had on Sunday. And I mean, not that much time to fly out to Houston. It was only 2 days later. But for whatever reason, the Warriors look more rejuvenated and energized. And maybe it was just because they felt more comfortable in the moment, as opposed to the Rockets, who most of those guys never played in a Game 7. I don't think Dylan Brooks has, not to my knowledge. Fred VanVleet, he has with the Toronto Raptors, but that's about it. Ime Udoka, I think, has coached in Game 7s, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, against the Miami Heat. But, yeah, they just didn't look up for the moment. And I thought that they were going to win the game when Buddy Hield made that three-pointer right before the first quarter. I was like, okay, things seem going in their direction. They had to have a hot start for them to win this game. It was all about making their shots, as you and I talked about. So play defense. They got defensive rebounds. They shot well. And then even though Steph only scored 3 points at half, they scored 51 points. And, things went a little, in the direction of the Rockets in the third quarter. But then Steph Curry scoring 14 points in the fourth quarter and then getting a 20-point lead pretty much cemented it. So, yeah, I mean, again, like we could talk about how this series impacts them going forward. But as far as yesterday, I mean, how could you not be thrilled with what you saw?
Dude, this was like a movie. This series was like a movie. It's like you have this older team who hasn't played this well, and you're playing this, upstart Rockets team that is very young, very athletic, very defensive minded, very physical. And then the first couple of games, obviously, we saw what the Warriors did, splitting it at 1, and then going back home and doing what they did. But then these last few games where they're just done after Game 5, then Game 6, they end up losing to the point where Steph is like consoling a crying cannon, or having to console a crying cannon. And then in between games, a cannon that was trying to avoid him, he's like, Dad, you better bring home a championship or I'm not talking to you. What are you doing?
That was kind of sad. You're
Steph Curry, Dad. Let's go. But then in between Game 6, though, and where I get to the movie part, is it feels like you always hear this with the Warriors, at least lately, not so much in the early championship days, but more so with 2022. Like, you're hearing Steve Kerr after the game say Draymond gave like a pep talk in Game 6, and Draymond led the charge. I almost said game on. Draymond led the charge in a team meeting afterward, and really set the tone for what they were going to go through with Game 7. And then you see them two sitting on the bench before Game 7, and apparently they had like a conversation that was life-changing, according to Draymond. And then they go out and win, and then Steph gets to carry Cannon all the way into the tunnel. I mean, his family's all right there. What did he say after the game? That his aunt just got her PhD, which is sick, or whatever, or whoever it was. And yeah, it just felt like a movie. And just with, all the little things, the Buddy Hield coming through, Jonathan Kuminga, like kind of having a down performance, like that kind of stuff. It's all involved.
All right, real quick. Cannon. How old is Cannon now?
I don't know.
God, I want to say, I feel like he was born 2017, 2018. So that's
I don't know Steph's life that well.
Yeah. Seems like a big kid. And he, still, I mean, who are we to say? I don't know. But like,
what are you trying to say?
I just like, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know how I was at that age. So initially when I saw him and he was like crying in his mom's arm after the game, I was like, come on, buddy. But then I was like, he's still pretty young. He's still pretty young.
He's 6 years old there.
I know, but it's misleading because he's Steph Curry's kid after all. He's going to be tall. So he looked like a big kid in, I'm forgetting Aisha's arms. So he just looked like a big kid. And actually, from birth, I remember him being pretty big. He was like a pretty, pudgy baby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But as all babies are.
For what I'm hearing is you're telling a 6-year-old that he needs to man up.
Basically, yeah. Canyon Curry, come on, like Dad told you, get over it. Okay, we got game Sunday. No, Cannon, I was, if I can, be cradled in somebody's arms after the Game 6 loss, I would have.
Yeah. No, what you would have been like at 6 years old. I don't know, Dad. If we keep going with this series, it might coincide with NFL's OTAs. You don't want to go up against that, Dad.
Well, I did notice with this the schedule for the playoff series, Game 5 would be the same day as the schedule release, and I don't love that.
Oh, man. Dad, you wouldn't want to go up against that, Dad. You got to get this done in 4.
Why do I sound like that at 6 years old?
Because you sound like an old man who's complaining or who's talking about scheduling conflicts with the NFL and other sports.
Okay.
I just like
Derek.
That's what you were doing since you were a kid.
Yeah, probably. By the way, Rocket New Era asks, does Derek have any nieces or nephews? I do. My step siblings have children, so I do have nieces or nephews.
Step uncle, Uncle Derek.
Yes, I have. I guess two nephews and one niece. So there you go. Okay, as far as Jonathan Kuminga, look. I mean, like, what else is there needed? What else needs to be said about this guy? Like, I thought Colin Cowherd, I usually don't agree with a lot of his opinions, but I thought he nailed it last night with him saying he looks lost out there. He did look lost. He always looks lost. It never looks like he's part of the offense. It looks like he's always on his own. So the perfect example of Jonathan Kuminga, him as a Warrior in a nutshell, was the beautiful move he made to get the layup, and then he didn't land it. He has all the talent, all the traits in the world, but he just doesn't fit with what they want to do. And I'm just getting tired of people clamoring for him to play. And then when he plays, they're like, oh, well, he hasn't played in a while. So what do you expect? Guys, it's been a long time, all right? This guy's been here, and he just isn't fitting in. So it's time to move on, and I wouldn't play him against the Timberwolves at all. If you didn't play him in crucial moments in this series, and I know he played last night, but when it was evident he just didn't know what the fuck he was doing out there, Steve pulled him. So I wouldn't play him against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I wouldn't do that at all. I'm over Jonathan Kuminga.
I think the Kuminga stands, the apologists, whatever you want to call them, I think they actually had a point prior to this Jimmy Butler trade. And even going back to last season, there was certainly some games you'd see them win where, I say certainly way too much, I got to stop that. You'd see them win, and you'd see them win, and it was because of Jonathan Kuminga and the difference that he made in that game. But this season has just gone downhill, and since that injury, since they acquired Jimmy Butler, that's where I kind of soured on the idea of Kuminga finding his way with this team. I think he could be a good basketball player. I really do, but not with the Warriors. It's just not going to work. And I think during this whole Jimmy Butler saga, I'll say one of the guys that kept repeating this was Bob Fitzgerald night after night on the broadcast. And not to call him out, but he's the one that pops into my head when I hear the words, well, wait till you imagine. Can you imagine what this team's going to look like when Jonathan Kuminga comes back and they're winning? I'm like, they're winning. So what is it going to look like when he comes back? Are they going to try and force him in there? Are they going to play him 10 minutes a night? Like, what are they going to do? I can't imagine what this team is going to look like when Jonathan Kuminga comes back, and not in a good way. Like, and we've seen him since then, and he kind of looks lost. And I know that Kerr's had this whole thing about how he's staying ready and blah, blah, blah. But those mistakes that he made in Game 7 were not mistakes he made through the Warriors system. Those were mistakes on fundamental plays. Those were missed three-pointers, a smoked layup, fighting against the zone, and then barely able to make just a routine pass to Jimmy Butler that ended up getting picked. Like, I didn't really see like the whole, well, it's the Warriors' fault with Jonathan Kuminga. I saw that being JK's fault last night. And the only reason he's not getting more minutes is because Jimmy Butler's here and they found a rhythm that works. And I think Steve Kerr was just trying to search for any answers, and Kuminga wasn't it. And that's why he was taken out. I mean, I know he came back into the game eventually, but he was still making mistakes. And it's like, Steve, what are you doing? He gave him, I think a lot of people would have been like, you know what? All right, that one stint that you've had in this first half, that's it. I'm not bringing you back in the second half. Steve Kerr still gave him a chance, and it just didn't work. So I'm not going to say he's never going to play in this series against the Timberwolves. I think Kerr would be so bold as to play him again and thinks that he finds like a matchup where it works for JK. But it's just not working with this team anymore. And again, I think he's going to be a very good player, maybe somewhere else, but not with the Warriors. I think I think there's way too many emotions mixed into it. I don't think his confidence is high right now. And if you want to blame that on the coaching staff, if you want to blame that on, I don't know, the front office for how they handled it, fine, you can do whatever you want. But that's just the fact, is that he's not working right now. And it's just been weird, really, ever since that Shams Charania post. I'm still not going to get over that.
What, the benched?
No, yeah, the one where Kuminga basically said that he can't develop under Steve Kerr, and then they ended up rejecting a contract extension. Like, it's just been, even though it seems like Kuminga's kept up his attitude and been a good teammate, something has just felt off.
Yeah. I mean, I was at the gym over the weekend on Saturday, and I mean, the Kuminga debate is just hilarious. I heard two guys from the distance just arguing about Kuminga, and one guy just being like, "Man, they got to play Kuminga. He's the most athletic guy on the team. You got to play Kuminga. I don't know what Steve Kerr's trying to do, trying to stunt his career, but he's got to play Kuminga in Game 7, man. He's the only guy that could score on this team." And then this other guy comes in and goes, "Man, fuck Kuminga. All right, he's full of shit." And these two guys are just like yelling at each other about Jonathan Kuminga. And I was just sitting there just being like, yeah, this is basically sports talk radio.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's evoked as much debate besides Draymond Green. I think Jonathan Kuminga would be a close second. Like, every time Draymond messes up, gets, a technical, loses his cool, that's when it becomes a conversation the next day, whether he's being a hindrance on this team and whether he's right to be here. And then with Jonathan Kuminga, now it's turned into that conversation where like they need to play him more. It's like, no, they don't. Whatever. Oh, you got with the leaf blower. What's up? Shit out of me.
That's all good. People need to blow leaves. Yeah. As far as Draymond Green, what would you call it, Steven? They're blowing leaves.
You hear that? That's Kuminga's Warriors career.
Just blowing in the distance.
Sorry, I don't mean to make fun of the guy. It's like,
no, they're not making fun of him. It's just at this point, it's not working out. And most likely he is going to be traded this offseason. So we'll talk about that when the Warriors season concludes. But yeah, I mean, Draymond Green, I mean, last night was a perfect example of why you put up with all the shit. I mean, they don't win that game without his defense. He was incredible last night. And I know people are making a big deal about the speech he gave. Look, I think it's cool when you win. I would love to hear the moments where players gave, uplifting speeches and then they lost, because that happens too. Like I would love to hear that part of like documentaries of teams that end up losing games. Like, oh man, he gave us a great speech. Of course, we totally shit the bed and lost. Like, I'm sure the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm sure Travis Kelce gave an amazing speech and maybe like, this is my last time I'm going to be on this field. And then they lost 40-22.
Yeah.
So I think speeches are overrated a little bit. But at the same time, like, Draymond Green's always been that vocal leader. And it's funny to me how he says he was embarrassed for his actions on Friday night for Game 6, how he pouted, how he, wasn't in the best mood during that game. And I was like, that's the most mature thing I've heard Draymond Green say in quite some time. I wish he acted that way towards other things he's done, other things he's said about how embarrassed he felt. But when it comes to basketball, that's the most important thing to him. And, he went out there and led, and they won the game. So, yeah, I mean, I think that, whenever you hear, like, obviously it's a big deal when Buddy Hield says, like, oh, I was, I wanted to run through a brick wall. I wanted to play right then and there. So Draymond always knows how to light a fire under these guys. I just wish they did it earlier. I wish they did it in Game 5. I wish they did it in Game 6. But Game 7 is when he broke out the speech and, called for that moment with what they were up against.
Well, I'll say this. He does have 2 flagrants, and we got a long playoff postseason.
I think it's 3.
No, that was a technical last night.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
One on Van Vliet. Yeah,
right.
we didn't even mention that. I think actually that's where you saw the value in Jimmy, because there was a replay where Draymond clearly looks pissed, and it looks like Jimmy's the only one who told him, yo, you pushed him over. Like, that's going to be a technical. What do you think you didn't? What do you think you didn't do anything wrong? Like, you pushed him. What do you think's going to happen?
At the same time, Fred Van Vliet then pushes Jimmy Butler on that open lane.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly, dude. I do think
clear path foul.
I think we are talking at Draymond in a very positive light right now. But if 2 more flagrants hit, let's just say against Minnesota, because you are up against Rudy Gobert, say 2 more hit and you don't have him for a crucial Game 5. If this series goes to Game 6 and they head back to Chase Center, I think we'll be talking about him in a different way.
Yeah, I know.
That's the Draymond Green experience, man. You love him when he's playing well, but my God, when he loses his cool, loses his mind, you're like, Draymond, what are you doing?
But I know, but like at this point, it comes with the territory of Draymond. Like we've been doing this thing for 10 years now, and I know he's annoying. His act gets old, but God damn it, do you love it when he goes out there and shuts a player down or makes a crucial turnover for the other team, gets a steal, gets a block. I mean, yeah, that's why you have Draymond Green. And I know, most likely it might happen this series because he hates Rudy Gobert and Anthony Edwards is talking that shit. And you best believe Anthony Edwards is going to act like the dude from Hustle and try to say things to Draymond Green to get under his skin. And Draymond's going to do the same thing right back to him. But I'd rather have Draymond Green out there than not. They saw I know people saw the video of Draymond Green and Steve Kerr having a very detailed conversation, shoot around. And I was like, that's, at the end of the day, those 2 guys have mutual respect for each other. They love each other. While we've seen it years ago where Steve Kerr's on the sidelines talking to Mike Brown, and you can see him mouth, I'm so fucking tired of Draymond shit. And there's so many things that have called for that. The punch of Jordan Poole, the Rudy Gobert chokehold that led to his suspension. There's so many times where they have said this has gone too far and it's violent acts. And at the end of the day, let's be real. Steph Curry is the one making the call, being like, I need this guy. Otherwise, he would have been gone a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And whether Steve wants to admit it or not, he feels the same way. He needs this guy in order to win basketball games. That's why they chose him over Jordan Poole, a much younger player. But Draymond Green has more of that championship DNA than Jordan Poole ever had. So, yeah, we're going to put up with the bullshit, and we'll see how long it lasts. But, yeah, you can't say that Draymond Green wasn't integral to what they did last night. That's the whole reason they made shots. It was Buddy Hield scoring 33 points and Steph Curry coming up clutch in the fourth quarter, Jimmy Butler getting to the line, and Draymond Green's defense and leading the charge with everybody else getting defensive rebounds.
Yep. And no one else on the Rockets just being able to do anything. Like, again, Fred Van Vliet felt like he was ice cold for most of the game. What did he go? Where I'm totally missing on stats here.
Yeah, I got you.
He was 6 for 13 with 17 points, which isn't terrible.
But he was lights out. I mean, 3 straight games.
But that's a lot better than the way we were talking about him. Like this is the Fred VanVleet from the 2019 finals. Şengün, 21 points on 23 shots. Thompson was probably their best player yesterday if you're looking at it statistically, but it didn't feel like anyone really had that great of a game for them. So the Warriors just stifled them, man, and they weren't ready. It's just these game sevens, you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be shocked if there were any Warrior fans out there who truly thought they were going to win and weren't just doing it on kind of a technicality, which is what I was really doing because I believed in the Warriors. But I don't think any of them had them winning in that way, where they were just dominated from beginning to end.
Yeah. So to that point, I guess Rock and New Era went back and listened to our last podcast, and he is saying that I said, I think the Warriors are going to lose.
Yeah.
So I don't think that should take away from my prediction initially of the Warriors winning in 6, but fine. If that's the tiebreaker, then I'll gladly eat this fucking chip like it's nothing. Because I am all that is man.
Listen, man.
Doing hot sauce.
You said we were tied, and you said the Warriors were going to lose. Like you said that. Thank you, Rocket.
I know.
I feel vindicated.
All right, I'll gladly do this. Okay, but to the point of so now with the Warriors winning this series in 7.
Yeah.
Quick turnaround. They play Minnesota, and this is the caveat to the whole series. Obviously, yes, we wanted them to win, but goddamn, is it now just setting you up for a harder series against Minnesota?
Sure.
This is basically the whole. It's a replay of what happened 2 years ago against the Kings. You could close that series out in 6. You didn't. The Lakers got a head start on you, and you had to play them right away, and they lost game 1. And the Warriors tied that series up 1-1, but they were never able to catch up after that. They went up 3-1. Who was it? Lonnie Johnson with that crazy 3 in game 4?
Walker.
Yeah, Lonnie Walker. Lonnie Johnson's, I guess, a cornerback now for the Raiders. Yeah, it's kind of setting up the same way, and that's the one thing that has me nervous. A much younger team, a guy that is not going to back down whatsoever. He's so young and not intimidated at all and wants that smoke and is on record saying, I want to play Steph Curry. I want to knock the Warriors out in the postseason. He's already knocked out LeBron James and Kevin Durant. I'll be completely honest, this is probably the least confident I've ever been in the Warriors in a series so far. In the 10 years I've been watching the Warriors.
I completely disagree.
Really? Tell me why while I get this hot sauce on my chip.
Yeah, well, because I don't think they're going to be able to do what the Rockets were able to do for most of this series and contain Steph Curry. I don't think they're going to be able to do it. And I know we can't really draw too much from their 4 games because they played so early on, but Steph was lights out in those last 3 games in which they won. And I don't think the Timberwolves have done anything crazy defensively to where they could stop him. And like I think that's my main reason is the Rockets, they had the Warriors offense discombobulated because Steph was constantly being face guarded. And they do have Jaden McDaniels. And, Jaden McDaniels is a very good defender. But I think what you prove with the Rockets is you need at least 3 guys if you are going to contain him for an entire game. You're not going to get it done with just 2. So what are they going to do? Use Jaden McDaniels and then Anthony Edwards on him? Like, what are they going to have Rudy Gobert come out to the 3-point line? Like, I think they're going to be able to find switches and to the point where the Dubs are going to be able to at least attack the rim. Like, I feel much better about this series as opposed to the Rockets. And let's not forget the Timberwolves had not been that great all series. They just went on a run towards the end of the season like the Warriors. And I understand they're hot, but they just played a Lakers team that did not play good defense. And if you're actually looking at the stats and you're looking at the effective field goal percentage, the Timberwolves were not as efficient even as the Warriors out of the half court. Like, I'm not as worried as you are. Like, I feel very confident. I know Julius Randle and Gobert and McDaniels, those guys are much bigger and maybe more athletic than the Warriors, but the Warriors have done fairly well against Julius Randle in his career, and that kept into this season. He only averaged 15 points per game against them. Compare that to the Nuggets in those 4 games. He averaged like 20. So I mean, of course, like Anthony Edwards, that factors into all of it. But in a weird way, I'm more confident in the Warriors playing the Timberwolves. The only thing, at least that's from a basketball standpoint, the only thing I understand the rest. I understand that.
Keep going.
So from that standpoint, then maybe the Warriors are at a disadvantage. But if we're talking purely basketball, I think the Warriors are a better team, especially with Jimmy Butler.
I mean, the Warriors, it's been a while. The Warriors have their success against Timberwolves 3-1 this season. But there's a different team right now. And you got Dante DiVincenzo.
Sure.
We know from back in the day. Oh, man. My tolerance is gone down.
Good.
Woo. And the sauce is stuck to the top of the bottom. So I had to get that off the top, and that's the worst stuff.
Oh, you got a lot of it, huh?
I got a lot of it. And I'm crying my eyes out because I got allergies mixed with hot sauce. Anyway, I don't know, Steven. I think that with Anthony Edwards, it's different. Yeah, the Rockets were a better defensive team this season than the Timberwolves. So there may be more success for Steph Curry to have more spacing and score more points in this series. But I think that they just have more scorers.
Mm-hmm.
And Draymond Green, he's going to want to, match up against Rudy Gobert because he hates that guy. But I just think that that's another team that's going to win in the category of rebounding and points in the paint. And the Warriors are just going to be a matter of can they overshoot what the Minnesota Timberwolves do. But
yeah,
Anthony Edwards improved his game immensely this season by having 300 threes this year. So, yeah, I mean, he's had a whole new element to his game. So I think it's going to be extremely tough.
Yeah, I think so. But we've seen the Timberwolves get got, and they do this every year where Anthony Edwards is the star of the playoffs. And I'll say it. I think he makes everyone think that the Timberwolves are a better team than they actually are just because he's so flashy and so fun and so brilliant. I think like last year, I think a lot of people after they had the Nuggets in 7, I think a lot of people had the Timberwolves beating the Mavs and they got stumped in 5 games. So I think the Warriors have a clear advantage here. And if they manage to get this to a game 6 where they have 3 days rest in between and you get the Warriors back at Chase Center, like I'm feeling pretty damn good about that, even if the Timberwolves are up 3-2.
Okay, but what about for right now where they have to go every other day? Like, I think it's going to be really hard for them to win tomorrow. But it could also be where the Timberwolves are a little rusty with how long they've been resting.
Sure. But even if – exactly. And even if they – I mean, obviously it's rest, I mean, they're playing each day back-to-back. Maybe it could favor the Dubs. But I just think from a pure basketball standpoint, I just think they're a better team, man. And I think the key is the guy that I mentioned, though, is Jaden McDaniels. Going from last year into this year, Anthony Edwards constantly says that McDaniels is the X factor. McDaniels is the guy that needs to get enough love. And I forgot what he had in game 3 against the Lakers. He had like 30 points, over 30 points, whatever it was. Might have been a different game. But I think that's going to be the guy where it's like he's going to be the one that's tasked with guarding Curry. He's probably going to be the one-on-one defender. But when he gets scoring, that's when the Timberwolves are at their best. I'm also oddly fearful of Naz Reid. I don't know why. Naz Reid just always comes in with these clutch three-pointers. They're like, where the hell did that come from?
It's Naz Reid. Come on now, not Naz.
Whatever. It's weird. It's a weird fear that I have of Naz Reid. Sorry, Naz.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hear you, Steven, but this team also, they knocked out the Phoenix Suns a year ago, and I know that team was, a shit show, but swept them. They, beat the Denver Nuggets in 7 last year where, oh, damn, you know what I'm just realizing? I just wiped my nose. There was a little bit of hot sauce on that napkin.
Oh, no.
Dear Lord. All right, we'll see how this goes. I can feel it in my nostril right now. It's a terrible feeling. Anyway, They were down 20 in that game and came back to win that series and close them out. And then this year to beat the Lakers. So just Anthony Edwards is not intimidated by anybody. So, and, just the fact that he wants to play this team, I just think it's interesting. I think that they won't be phased by this team. They're going to show up for every single game. And usually anybody that plays the Warriors is like that. So it's going to be interesting. With them not having home court, I don't love it, but yeah, it's just part of it.
It's
as
weird.
far as
It's an odd thing. I don't know why. I just feel like the Lakers are just such a one-trick pony kind of team where
yeah,
there were no more in these playoffs for their head coach fighting with the media and throwing. God, I ate a cracker that got stuck in the back of my throat. It's really painful, Derek.
Anyway, hot sauce.
I know. It's the funny part. Where their head coach was throwing tantrums and not being able to make late game adjustments, where they're only playing like ISO basketball, and it's like, hey, LeBron or Luka Doncic, let's go with one of those two. Maybe they'll get us going. And you have a guy named Luka who doesn't know how to play defense. I just don't think the Timberwolves are ready. I really don't. And I think we're going to see more of the Warriors that we were accustomed to seeing towards the end of the season, as opposed to the Warriors that we saw against the Rockets. And again, it all starts with Steph Curry. I don't think the Timberwolves are going to have a way to figure him out like the Rockets did. The Rockets did an extremely good job on Curry, to the point where really till that second half in game 7, like I didn't see Steph look comfortable at all in this series, maybe even in game 1, but even then, like it didn't feel like that. So I'm more confident in what the Warriors can do against this Timberwolves team than a lot of other people are.
Well, this series is interesting for multiple reasons. Obviously, because Anthony Edwards has always said he wants to play the Warriors, but there's so many different storylines. So the one that a lot of people are going to bring up is the fact that Steph Curry was passed over by the Timberwolves twice in the 2009 NBA draft. And this is the first time he's playing them in the playoffs. I go back to 2016 when the Warriors had their 73-9 season. And if you recall, Stephen, down the stretch, one of the few home losses they had that year was a overtime game to the Minnesota Timberwolves. And this is when Minnesota was a young and upcoming team, and they had Karl-Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, Ricky Rubio, Shabazz Muhammad, a lot of, veterans now, but at the time, these guys were going to be stars. And when I watched that team, I was like, this is going to be the next young and upcoming team in the West. This is going to be a team that challenges the Warriors for years to come, and it never happened. Mm-hmm. They eventually got Jimmy Butler, and they made it to the playoffs, but that became a shit show in itself, where fans, full disclosure, my little brother, Andrew, on my mom's side, is a diehard Minnesota Timberwolves fan. Why he is, I can't answer that question. He just likes them. He thought they were going to be a good team. They were young and upcoming, and he wanted to be, basically, the first guy to be on the bandwagon for them. And he tells me that Minnesota Timberwolves fans still, to this day, hate Jimmy Butler for the interview that he did. I think it was 2018. Jimmy was, I don't know if he was traded or he signed with the Minnesota Timberwolves, but he played one season with them and a little bit into the next season. And Jimmy just didn't gel well with Karl-Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. And since that time, Jimmy Butler has said that Andrew Wiggins is the most talented player he's ever played with. But he thought he was soft, and he called him soft. And that was a whole thing in a practice when the season was starting. Thibodeau was the coach. They did a spring training, or not spring training, but a preseason practice, and Jimmy challenged them all. He got all of the backups and wanted to play the starters and beat them. And then right after that, he conveniently had an interview waiting for him with Rachel Nichols, where he basically called out the team. Yeah. And then same kind of deal with the Miami Heat. There was, made up excuses for why he wasn't playing. I remember Dave Benz and Jim Peterson on the broadcast for one game in particular, where they were like, tonight Jimmy Butler's out with general soreness. And they both laughed their ass off at how ridiculous that excuse was. So Timberwolves, and then shortly after that, he was traded to the 76ers. But yeah, fans hate Minnesota Timberwolves fans hate Jimmy Butler. So I cannot wait for the reception he'll get when he goes back to play them.
Oh,
And
that'd be awesome.
then there's the 2020 draft where Minnesota was first overall and the Warriors were second. And people have said in recent years that Minnesota gave the Warriors the option to come trade up for one to take any player they wanted. And some people thought that maybe the Warriors missed out on drafting Anthony Edwards. You talk to many people that were covering the Warriors at the time, and they'll all tell you it didn't matter. They wanted James Wiseman. They had the superstars that, they had at the time, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson. They were comfortable with who they had offensively. They needed a big man. That's something they've always been trying to find. Interchangeable guys of Andrew Bogut to Zaza Pachulia to DeMarcus Cousins to Kevon Looney. They wanted that big athletic guy to go into the paint. And James Wiseman was supposed to be that guy. And in the end, Anthony Edwards is the new face of the NBA, and James Wiseman, I think, is out of the league. I don't even know where he's playing right now. And then there's also Steve Kerr and his relationship with Anthony Edwards and how, he's coached him with the Olympic team, but also in the pre-draft workouts, he worked out with the Warriors, and Steve Kerr told him, "You don't work hard enough. This is the clip. This is when Anthony Edwards was promoting Hustle, the movie he was in. But I've heard this. I think Jim Peterson came on with Tom and Copes a year ago, talked about this. This is Anthony Edwards basically telling everybody that Steve Kerr made him the villain that he is today.
I was working out for the Warriors pre-draft, and Steve Kerr is there, Bob Myers, and I forgot the other guy's name. And it's the coach, the front office guys. And we working out, and I'm doing this drill that they say that Steph be doing. Boom, I'm running, touching the line, shoot, running, touching the line, shoot. You got to make like 5 in a row. And I couldn't do it. I'm too tired. I'm like, man, this is too much. But I'm not saying this. I'm just jogging. And after the workout, Steve comes to me like, you can't go any faster. I'm like, I thought I was going pretty fast.
Right.
He was like, nah, do it again. So I did it again. I'm going fast. He stopped saying like, you can't go faster than that. So at this point, I'm like, all right, this is very bad. So now I'm trying to sprint, and now I'm looking all crazy, missing left, missing right. So we go to dinner, and he's telling me like, hey man, if we're gonna draft you at number 2, you got to be a hard worker. Like you ain't working hard enough. And I think that was a stumble in the road for me.
Wow.
And I looked at it like I called my trainer afterwards and was like, hey bro, we got to change. We got to change
our workout.
Yeah.
Change our workout.
He told me like Steve Kerr told me how Steph and KD used to work out super hard. It might not be long, but it's super hard when they're in there. And ever since then is when I feel like I took that next step.
Damn you, Steve. Damn you.
Yeah,
So
I don't know if he's like the villain because of Steve Kerr. I think he's a better player than he was.
yeah.
He
Well,
could have been, probably.
I think I remember this time last year, you and I talking about this, where Anthony Edwards was a terror for the Denver Nuggets, and you and I were discussing how we've heard this story where Steve Kerr basically motivated Anthony Edwards to be a better player, and yeah, this kind of is his villain origin story, where he always was going to be a good player, but he gave him that motivation to be a great player, and he always had the cockiness, the arrogance, and he could back it up with his play. So. Yeah, Anthony Edwards is going to be in the Warriors' face talking shit, and Steve Kerr knows a lot about him. He may have the best strategy to how to shut him down, or Anthony Edwards knows a lot about Steve Kerr, and he may know how to overcome everything the Warriors throw at him. So it's going to be extremely fascinating, and I cannot wait for this series. I'm honestly extremely excited because I've always wanted to see these two teams play, whether it was almost 10 years ago with Karl-Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, when I thought they were going to be the next great team, or now where they are the next great team. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. This was the series I think a lot of people were waiting for. Posted about it earlier in the season, but I was like, God, if the season really comes down to it, I'm good with the Warriors being at 5 and the Timberwolves being at 6. I just think these two teams are really good for basketball. And again, I'm going to repeat what I said during this Rockets series, but with understanding that the Steph versus LeBron thing, it's on its last legs, and we got to appreciate every game that we watch between those two. But as far as a playoff series now, I'm way more intrigued by watching the Warriors prove that they still got it against these younger guys, kind of like LeBron used to be doing back against the Warriors in like 2016. I enjoy watching that far more than far more than I enjoy watching Steph versus LeBron. So I think this is the series that a lot of people, I don't know if they agree, but this is the series that I really wanted just looking at the bracket and knowing they were going to play the Timberwolves or the Lakers. It's like that series with the Rockets was a lot of fun, man. I mean, I know the Rockets came away like punks at times, but God, it was a gritty series. And I think you're going to have another one with the Timberwolves. I do think the Warriors match up a lot better with the Timberwolves, though. And I know we're going to be making it out to be Anthony Edwards, all about Anthony Edwards, but they got to have the other guys beat him. And I wonder if they could do that. So,
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys I could see that could be Warriors villains that could piss off the fan base. Like, we all love Dante DiVincenzo, but he could be that guy that's talking shit to, whoever on the team and making threes and just being annoying the same way that Fred VanVleet was. Julius Randle, Jaden McDaniels. I think that there's a lot of guys on this team. And they have a lot of good players. Obviously, Rudy Gobert versus Draymond Green will be the forefront. And Anthony Edwards, what he's going to do against Steph or what he's going to do against Jimmy Butler. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting. So let's pick these second-round matchups. And I know that it started yesterday with the Cavaliers losing to the Indiana Pacers in Game 1. But, Steven, who do you have in that series?
Actually, I have the Cavaliers in 6. I think Darius Garland was an early scratch in that, or a late scratch in that one. No one really knew that he was dealing with a toe injury. I think that's going to get better from what I've read. So I was still taking the Cavs in 6. I think the Pacers stole one there. I think the Cavaliers can come back and win this one 6 games.
I agree. I think that I still like the Cavaliers, even though they lost yesterday. And you and I are simpatico on this one. So both of us agree that the Cavaliers are going to win in 6.
Mm-hmm.
We got Game 1 of the Knicks and Celtics going on right now. And in about 2 minutes left in the game, we have the Celtics leading 98-97. But let's pick the series, Steven. Who do you got winning?
I actually got the Knicks winning in 7. I think the Knicks are going to take it all the way back to Boston. Then they're going to win it on the road.
Yeah, I think it will be a close series as we're seeing in Game 1. Both teams are stacked with talent, but I'm still going to go with the Celtics in the end. I'm going with the Celtics at 6. All right, then we got the Western Conference. By the way, real quick on this, I know that I like the matchups. Thunder versus the Nuggets, and you got the Warriors versus the Timberwolves. But I hate that the NBA playoffs are just based on brackets. What it really should be, I mean, let's be honest. The top 2 teams in the West right now are OKC and Denver. I don't think we should have this matchup as a second-round matchup. I think both those teams should be meeting in the Western Conference Finals if they advanced. I think that the Timberwolves or Warriors should be playing OKC or Denver. I think it's kind of weird that we have a 6-7 matchup, but I know we had that a few years ago when the Lakers and Warriors played each other, but I think it's just kind of weird that we have that. That's just me, though.
Well, what would be your solution to that, though?
Do it based on like the NFL playoffs where you have the highest seed play the lowest seed. So based on that, the Thunder will be playing the Warriors and the Nuggets will be playing the Wolves.
Oh, like even into the next round?
Yes.
Interesting.
That's the way I would do it. But you know what? This way's fine. They've been doing it in the NBA for however long now. I don't think they're changing it. So after this Celtics and Knicks game is over, we get Game 1 of Thunder and OKC. Who do you got winning this series, Steven?
I'll have Oklahoma City Thunder in 5 games.
5?
Yeah, I think it's just been a grueling series for the Nuggets, and I think the Clippers were a good matchup for them, but I don't think they're going to be any match for the Thunder. I see the Nuggets getting out in 5.
Okay. I got the Thunder winning, but I got this going in 7. I think that I think both teams are pretty evenly matched. I know OKC's younger, and they had, a all-time regular season with the win total they had. I think it was like 66 wins or whatever it was, 64 maybe. Mark Daigneault is a really good coach, won Coach of the Year a year ago. That's the one thing I'll give in favor of OKC is just the coaching. I think that Rick Adelman, or it's not Rick Adelman, but Rick Adelman's son taking over for Michael Malone, he's done a fairly good job. He won his first playoff series ever in just 11 games as head coach. But I think that will be what does the Nuggets in, is just the lack of experience when it comes to head coaching. So I got the Thunder in 7. And then we got the Warriors and T-Wolves. Steven, I think you're going Warriors, but how many games?
6.
Warriors in 6, okay. All right. This is tough. God, I don't think I've ever picked against the Warriors in our time doing this podcast and the 10 years that I've been watching them play basketball in the Steve Kerr, era. I thought they would lose to the Nuggets back in 2013, and they didn't. They advanced to the Spurs, and I thought they were going to lose that series. Thought they would lose to the Clippers. Since that time, I thought they were going to win every playoff series they faced. And this is the first time I'm ever doing this. Yeah, I am going to take the Minnesota Timberwolves to beat the Warriors in 7. And I hate saying that, but I think this is where the Warriors will play their damnedest, and there'll be times where I switch my prediction altogether and think, oh, the Warriors have got this. This is a different animal. This is Anthony Edwards. I have a lot of respect in what the Minnesota Timberwolves do. And I also wouldn't, out of all the teams in the West, this team, OKC, Denver, it doesn't pain me as much to lose to them as it would to the Houston Rockets. So, I'm going with Minnesota in 7. And I hope I'm wrong.
There you go. How about that?
So there you go.
Do you think you're talking about this Anthony Edwards versus the Warriors thing. Do you think Steph feels any ill will towards the Timberwolves for passing on him?
Oh, I'm sure he does. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
By the way, we got this Celtics thing going down to the wire. It's coming down to the last shot. It's tied at 100, and there's 5 seconds left.
5 seconds left.
Yeah.
All right. You let me know when who's got possession.
The Knicks do.
Ooh. Okay. Let me know what happens in that game. Piseco final.
Yeah. Jason Tatum just missed a wide open 3.
Ooh.
Yeah. We did it.
What are you referencing there?
Him after they won the championship.
Didn't he do Kevin Garnett?
He tried. He just said, "We did it."
Oh, yeah. Failed miserably from what I remember.
Yeah.
Real quick before we get out of here, this is a topic we haven't discussed a lot because, I don't love all the details of it. And let's be honest, it's a kicker, and he's on the end of his career. But Justin Tucker was released today, and this comes after 16 accusations of women saying that he was inappropriate during massages. Same kind of deal as Deshaun Watson. And I didn't think it was going to be that, obviously the allegations are nothing to joke about. I just think that it's different than Deshaun Watson because Deshaun Watson at the time, we all thought could still play in this league and play at a high level. And that's just what comes with the territory in the NFL. If you can still play, people will look past terrible, terrible things. When you're a kicker and you're missing kicks and you're at the tail end of your career, they don't want to deal with this shit anymore. So the Ravens can say what they want today about this is for strictly football reasons. It's both. Like if he was still, actually, you know what? If even if he was a great kicker, he's a kicker. They probably want to deal with this shit. It's kind of like what was his name? Matt Ariza, the punter for the Bills. Yeah. They called him the punt god, and he was accused of rape, and they cut him. And he was exonerated of all that stuff. Who's to say what actually transpired? But now he's back in the league with the Kansas City Chiefs. So, I'm with Tacky here. Like Tacky's like, bruh, like get a goddamn prostitute. Like, it's also like at the same time, the creepy things that are involved with this shit. So it's not that simple as like that's his kink. He's being accused of deplorable things as much as Deshaun Watson. So I think it's an easy call for the Ravens. I think that he was declining as a player, so it's easy to release him. But the truth is, like, the Ravens don't want to deal with this. It's a bad PR hit. So it's easier to get rid of this guy as opposed to Deshaun Watson, who the Browns, thought was going to be their next franchise quarterback. And they've said in recent months that they swung and missed on it, and they gave him a ridiculous contract, and they deeply regret it. And they only regret it because he didn't pan out as a quarterback. They don't regret it for, obviously, all the things that Deshaun Watson was accused of. I commend the Ravens for getting rid of Justin Tucker. And look, I like Justin Tucker. I did, at least. He went to UT. I rooted for him. I think that on paper, if you look at his stats, if we're going to put kickers in the Hall of Fame, he probably deserves it. But if all this shit is true, then yeah, let's move on from him and let's forget about him. That's how I feel.
And all these happened when he was on his rookie contract. 2012 through 2016, that's when those allegations started surfacing, or at least that's the timeline of it. So I can't really understand it, but also, you know what? The Browns are getting what they had coming to them when they ended up trading and giving Deshaun that fully guaranteed contract, because that set them back years with their franchise. So, you get what you pay for. Like, good on the Ravens for releasing him, but also the Ravens were a little, I thought, too generous with their statement. Like,
yeah,
with this sort of thing, you normally, with this sort of thing, you just say, we have released Justin Tucker from the Baltimore Ravens in another statement. Instead, though, they went all in. They went on to commend him for the time that he gave to the organization. His reliability, focused drive, resilience, and extraordinary talent made him one of the league's best kickers for over a decade, creating many significant and unforgettable moments in Ravens history. Grateful for their many contributions while playing for the Ravens, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't sound like you're releasing him based on these allegations. That sounds like he's retiring. So it's like, I don't know. I personally just didn't like that statement. That felt a little weird.
Well, I think that's their way of kind of getting out of it before they need to publicly disgrace him.
Yeah.
Like, all the allegations are bad. And yes, they stem from well over 13 years ago, but they're bad allegations. And yeah, you can, when you're a kicker and you're not making kicks anymore, it's easier to move on. So for the Ravens, they don't look bad in this situation because they could just say, I think some people may say, like, oh, you didn't stand by your player when they're accused of this stuff. At the end of the day, he wasn't panning out as a player. But also, when your player is accused of this stuff, sometimes it's just like, how can we go forward with this? And if anything comes out where the stuff is true, then yeah, they can say, well, at least we got rid of the guy. So I understand what they're doing because he is the best kicker in their franchise's history. I mean, you can make the debate that Matt Stover was better, but look at it stat-wise, Justin Tucker was better. But yeah,
maybe that's what you were arguing about when you were 6 years old.
What, Matt Stover?
Matt Stover or Justin Tucker were better kickers, even though you weren't 6 at the time.
Yeah, I was not. I was much older when Justin Tucker was in the league. But I don't know. I think just it's time to move on. You're accused of all this shit, and you're not going to help us win football games. Let's just move forward. So,
yeah. I mean, sorry if I'm on that side of it, but it just does not feel like it's a guy who should be celebrated. Like, that's just me. There's too many of these allegations now, and if you read some of the details, they are terrible. And if your only option is to go to Outkick to try to get someone to do a piece on you, then you're in deep shit because it's Outkick.
Yeah, I mean, one allegation is troubling enough. When you have 16, it's like, yeah, it's trending in that direction. Now, at the same time, we had people call in today on Dirty Work. We were taking calls on the Warriors. We had certain people call in to say, hey, should the Niners sign Justin Tucker? And we're like, what? Why is this a conversation right now? Well, because Jake Moody sucks. I'd rather have Jake Moody than Justin Tucker. And also, people act like the Niners wouldn't have to deal with the same PR backlash that the Ravens are dealing with. Why the fuck would they sign Justin Tucker right now? That makes no sense. So anybody that's thinking out there that the Ravens or the Niners, John Lynch should be calling Justin Tucker, you're out of your mind. That's not going to happen. Justin Tucker's not playing football anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't hear a lot about these allegations going forward because there's not as much interest because he's not in the league, and that's sad. And we'll see whatever happens with all of those accusations. But
that's also someone who clearly hasn't paid attention to the 49ers front office and what they stand for. They don't have any tolerance for that sort of stuff. Like when Deshaun Watson going to the 49ers was even a conversation. I remember that getting brought up. Like they do not want to deal with that. That's the last thing they want to deal with.
Initially, they were in on Deshaun Watson, and then these allegations came out, and then a lot of teams were like, no, thank you.
Yeah, and the Niners were a part of that, and they spoke with a lot of conviction when it came to that sort of stuff. So if you think they're going to get anybody with character concerns of any kind, yeah, that's and this was more than character concerns. Yeah, good luck with that one.
Yeah, especially when they dealt with so much shit in the past. Like, remember Ray McDonald, the defensive tackle?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Or Reuben Foster, or that.
Or Reuben Foster, yeah. So they want to get away with all that. Want to get away from all that stuff. So, yeah, Justin Tucker not playing football probably ever again, and we'll see if he's actually a deplorable human person. Yes, Bruce Miller, as Tacky writes here too as well. All right, I guess that Knicks and Celtics game's going to overtime.
Yeah, it's already in overtime. Jalen Brunson missed a wide open layup. It went in and out. It was really close. They drew up a beautiful play and got him open. Oh, brutal.
All right, well, I'm going to enjoy the rest of that game, and you guys can enjoy the rest of the Giants losing 9-2 to the Cubs.
We'll see like you're happy about that, Derek.
No, it's just, the Cubs are a really good team. We'll see how good the Giants are. I know they lost one game to the Rockies and then won 3 straight, but let's see how good they actually are. They lost, it was only a 2-game series to the Padres.
Mm-hmm.
They're a good team. We'll just see how they stack up with the rest of the National League. Okay, guys, as far as the rest of the week, the series is going every other day. So I think what we're going to do is we're good for Wednesday, Steven, to react to game 1.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We'll be good. We'll be good for Wednesday's show, usual time, 7:15. But then the Warriors play game 2 on Thursday. So I think Steven and I will reconvene on Sunday just to react to games 2 and 3, if that's good for you.
Yep.
Yes, all right. And then we'll see where the series goes from there. It's every other day. And then there's once they get to game 6, there's like 3 days off there. So we'll play it by ear. But yeah, for the rest of the week, it's going to be Wednesday and then Sunday. And we'll react to games 1, 2, and 3. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in as always. For everybody in the chat, Tacky saying, let's go Wolves, eat shit. Rocka New Era, Skills Report, Ernie 1. We had Pig 76, and I believe that's it. All right, everybody. We'll see you on Wednesday at 7:15. Steven, say what you always say.